Okay, so it is the 23rd of April. I have less than 2 weeks to go until I am home. And I thought that I would just go through some memories and just some thoughts that I've had over the last 3 months, basically. Just some stuff that I've written in my personal diary, or just things that kind of sprung to mind, that I think are kind of like key milestones or moments that, I will always remember. So I have more paper because it's too much to remember. So my first memory is the reality check that we all got in Mutare, so when we were training. We'd obviously all just got off the 24-hour travel plus, really, really tired. Found out there were showers at our training accommodation. We were like, yes, showers. We all, I think you can guess, after a long haul flight, weren't feeling the cleanest. So our first shower experience in Mutare was something to remember. It was the reality check kind of for the rest of the trip. So we were all like, yes, showers. There was 3 showers. So we all kind of got our stuff ready, kind of ran to the bathroom. Some were already in their towels, had already taken off their travel clothes, were in their towels, were ready. They were going to be the first ones in the shower. So I think there was about 6 of us, at least, us international girls, like, ready. Okay, shower, here we go. And for the next 20-25 minutes, we probably looked quite amusing, because naturally, as the first 3 went to jump in the shower, we realised that there was no water, that the water hadn't been pumped from the borehole. So we were all basically standing around in our towels, just waiting for the pump system kind of to kick in so that there was actually water for the showers. Finally the water arrived and we were like, yes, water, great. First we jump in, and I'm pretty sure the national girls could hear us shrieking down the hall, because even though there was only little dripples of water, it was so cold. It's the coldest shower I think up until that point I'd ever experienced. So cold. So that was kind of the first reality check, us Western British girls standing around in our towels, like, oh yeah, it's not instant hot water. There's not instant showers. So we probably looked a right bunch of idiots, quite frankly. So that's actually quite funny looking back. But we were just still in the haze of travel, so we didn't really think it through. So yes, that is something that I will always remember. Us all looking at each other like we've gone completely mad. Because when we finally realised, we were like, oh, we're in Africa now. You need to kind of switch on. Things are going to be different. So that was my first memory, kind of the first thing that I'd written down. The first thing again is in Mutare, and this was kind of like a milestone, not necessarily a happy one, or it just kind of is what it is. But it was the first time that I cried. So the first time I cried while I was here, just that first week of training in Mutare. And I wrote down in my diary, I said, I guess that's part of why I'm here. I always knew it wasn't going to be easy, and I wanted to push myself and grow as a person. But as I said to Claudia, who was one of our team leaders, I said, sometimes that the process hurts and it sucks really badly. And I guess it's true kind of in the past as well. The moments where I've grown, I think the most, are the hardest moments of my life. I famously said to my dad that character building sucks. I don't want to build my character anymore. It's an awful process. Maybe I should just stay how I am. So yeah, that was kind of like a milestone, the first time I cried. But kind of also the realisation that that's why I'm here. Like, I'm not here so it's an easy breeze, just kind of drift along, be the same person I was before, learn nothing. So that was kind of like the first realisation that, okay, this is not, going to be easy. You're here for a reason, so you've kind of just got to accept it. My third one is the first time becoming frozen from pure shock ever in my life. I've had a culture shock. I'd always thought, oh yeah, I've experienced it, whatever. But kind of the first time, literally brain freezing, stood there like, I can't process what is going on. You know, everybody's staring and yelling, and it's all in a foreign language, and I just think that my brain just couldn't process kind of the difference and the shock, and it just stopped really. So that was the first in my life. So again, learned some things from that. Again, my first church experience, number 4. Obviously I've talked about that previously, so I won't go into much detail. But also the realisation on how much religious practices influence Zimbabwe, whether it's good or bad, and kind of the realisation that everything that I do or everything I teach has to take into account the religious aspect here. Not so much at home. You wouldn't really think about the impact of religion on certain things, but here it's very, very important, and it almost dictates how a lot of people live their life. Okay, I would just like to say that my camera died halfway through the vlog. Not useful. So I've had to break out the solar charger, which is why I probably look a bit different, and there's a bit of a gap. So, I was halfway through my first church experience and the impact of religion on Zimbabwe. Again, I was saying, obviously, it's good and bad, and just experiencing it in kind of everyday life, and, you know, teaching has also affected how I've taught. Kind of teaching, I've had to often deal with kind of the response of, but it says in the Bible, or I've asked, why do you think that? Because it says in the Bible. That's been quite a challenge, coming from a not kind of religious background, kind of trying to dig out reasons, especially from a lot of the boys, why do you think that? And just getting, the Bible says so. It's like, no, why? Why do you think that? I know it says in the Bible. Let me just check it's recording. Yes, it is. So, you know, why? You've got to have a personal reason why, you know. So, trying to come to terms with that has obviously been quite a big deal. And that very much played into International Women's Day, I found. That's another good memory. It was on the 8th of March, and that was realising and witnessing the gender equality issues firsthand. Obviously, I've thought about it, you know, I've done debates about it, very theoretical debates, and addressing it at home and issues that we've obviously got in Britain, but witnessing some maybe bigger problems firsthand on the ground. You know, obviously, it's quite a milestone, quite a life-changing moment, especially as a woman, personally. And I think that, again, religion in the Bible was very much played into the inequality that I've seen. One of my best examples is a kid from Knowledge Planet, who's actually, I reckon he was about 18, so he's not really a kid, because we taught some A-level students. And as I think I've said before, he was very much like, no, I will not marry an educated woman. My wife will stay at home. She will cook, she will clean, she will have kids. She will not work. I am the man of the household. It is embarrassing if I marry an educated woman. It is not the done thing. And challenging kind of this boy politely, as a facilitator, as a teacher, trying to get him to think about his reasoning and think about why he feels how he does, you know, is a challenge in itself. Dealt very differently, personally, than I would have if I'd met someone of that opinion on the street at home. I would have been maybe a little bit more forward, in my own opinion. But obviously, you know, that's not my place here. You know, I facilitate, I teach, I kind of try and broaden horizons, I give them other options, you know, not dictating to somebody, you know, and that's a lesson for your entire life, not dictating to somebody they need to believe what you believe. It's kind of accepting all viewpoints and maybe just widening them a little bit. So, you know, his reasoning was basically the Bible. you know, God made Eve to help Adam, or something like that. I can't quite remember, but very much religion-based, Bible-based. You know, and I tried to ask him, I said, okay, other than the Bible, why? Why do you think that women should not be equal? You know, he said at the beginning of the lesson, he said, that's the problem with Zimbabwe nowadays, women wanting gender equality. I still don't know entirely how to respond to something like that. But, you know, so, you know, I was like, okay, let's discuss this. I was like, well, if you don't see any point in women working or being part of the workforce, why should we bother educating them? You know, what's the point in the girl sitting next to you? Why should she be here? You know, so questions like that. And he also said, if you see a tree, the women are the roots. They're underground. You can't see them. They are not there to be seen. They are not there to be heard. You know, the tree in all its glory above ground, that is the man. That is the leaves and the branches. And, you know, that is man. And women are underground. That's the roots. And I, you know, proposed to him. I said, well, as an idea, I said, let's think about how many trees could stand without their roots. And he didn't know what to say. He never thought about it like that. That the tree would not be standing if it was not for the fundamental roots beneath the ground who held it all together. Some of the girls found that quite entertaining. They'd never seen someone kind of propose an alternative idea to this boy. So I do remember Antoinette, one of the girls, she had a huge smile on her face. It's like she'd been waiting for that moment her entire life. And, you know, he did develop, kind of just having conversations. I think he did develop, you know, starting from the women don't work, never work. He changed his mind, you know, obviously not a complete 180, but he said, okay, well, okay, maybe she could work, maybe my wife could work, but as long as she doesn't earn more than me. She cannot earn more than me, that is embarrassing, but I guess if she worked it wouldn't be a huge deal. So, I like to think that's progress. It's certainly different from when we started. So yeah, that's kind of another kind of, for me, a memory kind of challenging gender equality kind of on the ground in a developing country. Because gender equality is quite, for those who know me, quite a big issue for me. So yeah. And then number six. This is more of a negative one. Again, not to make this negative at all, just kind of thoughts that have gone through my head. And I wrote down, am I just putting a band-aid on a gaping hole? I think anyone that does international development work, I think everybody reaches that point or hits that wall of, I know I'm trying, but am I doing enough? Is it just a wound that just keeps reopening, or will never shut, or it doesn't matter how hard you try, you're just not going to go anywhere? You know, there are bigger issues on a much bigger scale, and, you know, you're just talking to school kids. You know, so is something like what I'm doing worth doing? Is there any point in it? Should I just be at home, focusing on issues at home? Should I just leave it? You know, you're not going to help. There's no worth trying, or just kind of that realization, or kind of that negative thought that there's so much to change, not just in Zimbabwe or not just in Africa, but around the world. There are so many issues, and why do you think the little bit that you're doing is ever going to be enough? And later on I'll come back to kind of my final thoughts that I've had recently while reviewing my 2 weeks, and I think it'll show kind of where my mind is at now. A bit more positive, maybe a bit idealistic, but that's for you to kind of guess, or whatever you want to think. But that was kind of a big thought that I kind of reached, you know, band-aid on a gaping hole. any of my efforts actually doing anything. So yeah, that was number 6. Number 7, Mabel. Mabel. Again, I've talked about Mabel. You know, she will be with me for the rest of my life. I will always remember Mabel. Number 8 is number 8 is a bit of a more funny one. It's a bit more of a kind of light-hearted. Before I finish, so yes, I learnt, especially while ill. I've spent a lot of time ill, unfortunately. Probably about not quite half, but yeah, I've really not been well. Been in hospital, kind of that kind of thing. So I was a little bit nauseous, a little bit feeling queasy, not great, and I learnt that the smell of burnt chicken intestine and chicken organs is really not a good smell. Really not a good smell, especially when you're not feeling well. It's a smell that takes over a house, doesn't just stay in the kitchen, you know, so for the rest of the day the entire house will smell of burnt chicken inside. And this later kind of developed, last week actually in fact, that the taste, is something funny about the taste. So in the past I've eaten chicken head and chicken feet, and I thought, no, okay, like I wouldn't necessarily rush out and buy it again, but okay, it's fine, whatever. So it was last week and I was in town with Odie and Bethan, and I knew what I was eating. Bethan did not. And I honestly felt so ill afterwards, and the taste, I couldn't eat dinner. I wasn't even able to function on the combi. I just felt so sick. It was unbelievable. I knew what I was eating. Having eaten similar stuff in the past, I was like, yeah, okay, let's do it. Let me try it. You know, Odie was laughing. He was like, come on, try it. Bethan thought it was just a chicken kebab. So Bethan realised about halfway through that something wasn't right and asked Odie what it actually what was it off? What was the chicken not cooked properly? At which point Odie said again, oh no, that's kind of, he said it's the bit between the stomach and the intestines. But so basically like the intestines and like the lining of the stomach. And her face was absolutely priceless. She was like, oh my god, what am I eating? So yeah, that's a memory. Burnt chicken insides. Again, something I remember for the rest of my life. Something I might avoid as well, just from experience. A lot of people like it. There's nothing wrong with liking it. Different people like different meat, different food. That's fine. That's cool. I personally may not indulge in it again. So this leads me on to number 9. My final point, kind of my final thought that I've had, and I think it's something maybe a lot of people watching in the past have thought, like, why am I still here? You've been ill, you know, you've obviously struggled. I've been open, kind of with the struggle that I've had. I wanted this to be open, this to be honest, you know, which is actually a challenge in itself. Being open like this, I don't do emotions normally. You know, why are you still there? Just go home. Just leave. You're not having a good time. Leave. You're struggling. Leave. You're ill. Leave. Whatever. So I actually wrote. Let me find it. I actually wrote some stuff down. So here we go. I would never say I regret it. I would never regret an experience that has taught me more about myself. Don't get me wrong, it's not been the experience that I quite expected or maybe wanted it to be. But ultimately it's helped me broaden my view on the world, taught me things about myself, and challenged me to develop as a person. These things are not a negative thing in themselves, but it would have been nice to maybe have a little bit more positive of an experience, or a little bit happier, less challenging experience. Changing the world is never going to be easy, and neither is changing the status quo of a country that personally I feel is a little stuck. But it doesn't mean that I shouldn't try. Even now, I still want to make a difference in this world. I want to help empower people who don't know how to help themselves. The world is so much bigger than our tiny island back home. And there are people all around the world who just need someone to care and to give a damn. And I refuse to be known as someone who did nothing and didn't care. No matter some of the costs to myself and the challenges that I face, I refuse to be the person that did nothing and walked away. And maybe ultimately that is the reason that I'm still here. So yeah, I guess hopefully that answers any questions you have about why I'm here, or kind of my mind frame on if I'm making a difference in the world. I think ultimately I have to try. Maybe I'm an idealist, maybe I'm naive, but I have to try. I will never know if a change has been made if I don't try. And do you really live a life if you don't have something worth fighting for? A goal to go and get, you know, a change that you want to make. So yeah, I think it's quite a good kind of last thought, as it were. I don't know whether I'll do another one. Maybe kind of, because I've only got 2 weeks left, I might do like a final one. I don't know. But yeah, it's been an interesting journey. I think I've learned and developed as a person. And as I said, I will not regret that. I refuse to regret that. Maybe looking back in 20 years' time, I will laugh at myself. Probably watching this back, I will laugh at myself. I think it's changed me. I think it has, and I guess we'll just see how much of a difference I've truly made here, and how much of a change I've truly made to myself, and how it changes how I deal with the world and wider issues, cultural issues, things in the future. So yeah, I might see you again, I might not, but if you have watched this and you've watched kind of all of my videos, thank you very much. I do appreciate it. If no one's watched, then whatever. It's been a good way of me to open up emotionally, so I think it's been a good thing. So maybe see you next time, maybe not.